Welcome to the Big4accountingfirms.com podcast. Not sure if any of you guys saw it last night, but PwC was at the Oscars. Of course you saw it, or you heard about it, or you read it. PwC blew their responsibilities at the Oscars. Some are now calling one of the easiest jobs in the world. PwC managed to screw up. So that's what we're going to be going over today, PwC and the Oscars. The structure of how we're going to cover it is we're going to first speak about what went wrong. Then we're going to talk about what that means for PwC. And then lastly, we're going to go over PwC's role at the Oscars, what they normally do, and how we think that led up to this. Because we had a blog post last week where we criticized PwC for being a little bit unprofessional this year. They went a little bit overboard with the media and the tour, and they felt like they were a part of award season instead of a professional services firm that was supposed to be servicing their client. Okay, first, let's go over what went wrong. So what happened was that Warren Beatty announced the wrong winner. He was up there with Faye Dunaway, and you could see the envelope in Faye Dunaway's hand that said Best Leading Actress upon analysis after the show. Now what happened is Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway were looking at the envelope for a little while because it didn't make sense. It had Emma Stone's name in it, and it had the movie La La Land, because Emma Stone had just finished receiving the award for Best Actress in a Leading Role, and they announced the wrong movie. Now, what should have happened is it should have been immediately corrected. What ended up happening is all the people from La La Land ended up coming to the stage, accepting their award, and giving speeches until one of the producers on La La Land figured out that they did not win. He was asked by some people around the stage to open his envelope so they could confirm that they were the winners. In fact, they were not the winners. It was Moonlight, as we later saw. And craziest things is this producer, he figured it out, and Warren Beatty was holding the right envelope after Brian Cullinan handed him the envelope. But he just, he didn't want to wait for Warren Beatty and Jimmy Kimmel to open it. He just ripped the envelope right out of their hands and pulled it up to the TV screen. He made up his mind that he was going to be the person to get this right. And through the madness that was going on stage, you could see Brian Cullinan and Martha Ruiz, who were the two PwC partners in charge of this, and they were just shuffling around and didn't know what to do. They were puzzled, and it was funny to some extent because before this show, PwC had done so much media and said so many things that this partner, Brian Cullinan, who's a very important partner at PwC in the LA office, he was asked what would happen if you got the awards wrong. Obviously, because Steve Harvey, a couple of years ago in the Miss Universe, he got that wrong. So the question came up, and he's like, well, if anything were to go wrong, we'd immediately correct it and go on stage or get somebody to correct it. But that's not what happened. It took more than 2 minutes for this mistake to be found out. So that's what's shocking, is that this scenario was played out to him. And not only that, he also went on to make a statement that the most important part of the night was handing the right envelope. And he did that before the Oscars. So it was kind of fortuitous that he made all these statements and then it actually ended up happening. And PwC is doing a little bit of damage control now too. But Brian Cullinan tried to play it off during the show, and he tried to tweet out about Emma Stone winning the Best Actress. And I think he was doing that as there had this Best Picture problem. And he later deleted all of his tweets from Oscar night, which I think makes it even worse, because why did you delete that? If it's just this honest mistake, then you don't need to delete the tweets. But even if it's not, you should still delete the tweets because it looks horrible. And one of these tweets, because all these tweets are archived, obviously, and saved, and people were just lighting him up. Like, you have the easiest job and all this. And that brings me to a good transition into what does this mean for PwC. I think this has wide-ranging implications for PwC. I talked to multiple people at PwC, and it just depends on your level of loyalty to PwC to see your viewpoint. Some people think it's just going to blow over, it's not that big of a deal. And then there's people in the media, obviously these brand experts, that think brand is everything, where PwC's brand is on the line. And it's funny because all the major newspapers sort of copycatted the headline It was New York Times, Washington Post, Boston Globe, CNN. It's this headline risk that they tell you about in accounting. And normally it's with the financial statement and getting that wrong. But in this case, it was, who knows if it's even worse than that, because this is Hollywood. This is the night that was supposed to be about Donald Trump, about Hollywood telling Donald Trump what's right and wrong and diversity. And, Moonlight winning was supposed to be a move towards diversity, but PwC took away from all of that. So it's like, not only did you screw up what appears to be an easy job, but you did it on a very important night to Hollywood, and you diminished the statements that a lot of those actors wanted to make. Even though Hollywood is liberal and everybody thinks liberals are nice, it'll be interesting to see whether Hollywood is able to forgive PwC for this. And the reason I say that too is because this headline risk, right? Like, you get it wrong in Hollywood, and Hollywood is media. They're synonymous with media. And so you get something wrong in Hollywood, it's everywhere. Financial statement audit, like the Taylor Bean lawsuit or this MF Global lawsuit they're going through right now, not many people know about that unless you come to our site and read Big Four accounting firm. Not many people know that. But you screwing up the Oscars, I saw everybody today reading about this, talking about how embarrassing this is. I saw people online in forums saying, great, now I can't put PwC on my resume. It's not just the brand. It's not just a brand hit from a client perspective, because who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with the Oscars? Are they going to lose the Oscars? I think the Oscars at least has to go up for a bid now, for an RFP, request for proposal. And whether they lose it or not, I don't know. If I was the Oscars, I might think about going with somebody else. But even if the Oscars do not give it to somebody else, you better believe they're going to ask for a lower fee. And this is so embarrassing from so many levels, because you've been in the media the past few weeks saying how you've done this for 83 years and it's integrity and it means so much to you. And you can't make an honest mistake when that happens, because what it looks like from a surface level is that you only have 2 partners at this thing, and they're in charge of the envelopes, and that's it. So there's bound something go wrong eventually. And now they're talking about possibly bringing in envelope checkers next year. Well, if I was a client, I'd want to know why you didn't think of that. That seems like a basic level control. As a partner, as an insurance partner, which Brian Cullinan is, do you understand what a control is? Now, Martha Ruiz is a tax partner. Maybe she doesn't know. But even that, she's been doing this for 10 years. And it's also, I have so many questions coming out of this. And they say that those are the only 2 people that know the results of the Oscars. Well, then who are these people that came out on stage and asked this guy if he had the right envelope? It should have been only the partners that came out and knew. I mean, you sit there and you think that Donald Trump and these quote unquote scandals that he has are going to be in the news the next couple of days. But now it's all these scandals about PwC, all these theories. There's so many theories getting floated out too. Like, was this staged so that the Oscars could get more ratings? People are talking about Russia being involved, of course. Any kind of scandal in the U.S. now has Russia behind it. But I wanted to continue talking about PwC's brand. Another place this is going to affect their brand is with other clients, because other clients are going to be questioning PwC's level of work. If you don't understand that type of control, how can you understand my controls? And this is one of the biggest engagements to the firm because of exposure to the media. Like, do you understand the exposure of my company? Do you understand the risk? Are you going to be able to assess that? It just brings all these doubts that weren't there before. And it's funny because you go through school and you talk about independence in appearance and in fact. And this isn't an appearance for PwC. It's not talking about independence here, but it's talking about your appearance of how you look. And another area this is going to affect PwC is in recruits. Recruits are they going to want to go? Are they going to work for the firm that got the Oscars wrong? Now, if you're in accounting and you're going to say, well, that doesn't affect it that much because PwC is a very prestigious firm. But if you're not in accounting, Let's say I just got a job at PwC and I talked to my non-accountant friend. Oh, I got a job at PwC. Oh, the accounting firm that got the Oscars wrong? And people aren't going to want to hear that. They're going to hear that from their parents, from their friends. And people are very easily moved by these type of things. They don't want to hear that. They don't want, oh, that's Joe over there. He's a goofball. He went to that goofball firm that got the Oscars wrong. People that are sensitive like that aren't going to want to go to PwC. Now, is it going to bankrupt the firm? Obviously not. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about, is it going to have a brand impact? Of course. And PwC had a down year in revenues last year, as we've covered on our blog before. And I think this widens the gap even more between them and Deloitte. Okay, now I wanted to talk about PwC's normal responsibilities and how I think they got here. Now, if you check out our blog last week, we wrote an article about what PwC does at the Oscars. It was our 2017 edition. We really wanted to cover what PwC does because they had done all this media and ramped up, and we wanted to give an overview of what they do. Now, what is PwC supposed to do at the Oscars? They're supposed to count all the ballots that determine the award winners at the Oscars. And they've been in charge of the process for 83 years. PwC puts two partners in charge of this. And this year was Brian Cullinan and Martha Ruiz. They are the only two people that know the identity of the Oscar winners before the envelopes are opened, except for when they open the envelopes twice, right? And that was the thing, is there's supposedly people behind these two partners that are doing the work, but it's only these two partners that get the media attention, and they screwed it up. And those are the people I feel sorry for in this case, because those people still did the hard work, and that wasn't translated up at the partner level. And that's one of my frustrations with the Big Four, is even if you're in a lower position and you do great work, it's not always reflected by your partner. And I hope that's what PwC learns from this, that they need to demand as much from their partners as they do from their staff. Okay, everything else that PwC does at the Oscars is behind the scenes. The ballots are counted manually, even though some of the voting is done electronically. And the voting doesn't close until relatively close to the Oscars. And they divvy up the work among several employees, but at the end of the day, only Brian and Martha know the result. Now let's go over who are Brian and who are Martha. Shocker, both of them work in the LA office, which makes sense, right? Because the Oscars are in LA. So if you want to be them someday, which might be easier now than ever, then it would help to go work in the LA office. But it also might help to work up the U.S. leadership ladder, because Brian is PwC leadership. He is Ivy League educated. Can you believe that? And he serves on the U.S. board for PwC, which is pretty shocking. That's going to be huge, because what does that mean? What's going to happen for him in the future? If you're on an audit and something goes wrong, you normally lose some equity. So is he going to lose equity? Is he going to be penalized? Is he still going to be on the board of PwC now that he's damaged their reputation? We'll have to see. Now, he primarily works on entertainment industry clients, and he's also been known to look, a lot of people think that he looks like Matt Damon, and I agree with it. He looks pretty close to Matt Damon. And he is the 14th partner to count Oscar ballots, and Martha is the 15th. You can find links to their LinkedIn profile and their Twitters on our website if you just search under PwC Oscars. Now, who's Martha Ruiz? She's a tax partner, and she works in the entertainment line of service too, but she's in tax. And she's been working behind the scenes at the PwC Oscars engagement for 10 years. And she's the first Latino woman to have this job. And now I want to go over a little bit of the media that PwC did going up to this event. They had their ballot briefcase, which is the briefcase that holds the ballots, travel around the country. And it even went to Mexico. And on the blog, I said that this reminds me of Carmen Sandiego. They were trying to, they're getting smart, and they're getting, kind of smart with this social media stuff and trying to be like, guess where the ballot briefcase is? And they took it next to iconic statues and other touristy type things in big cities. Like they took it next to the Rocky statue in Philadelphia. And I wanted to go over some locations of where the briefcase went. It went to New York in January. It went to Boston, Philly, Cleveland, Chicago, Minneapolis, Miami, Dallas, Houston, Mexico, and finally ended up back in LA. It even ended up receiving a Valentine's Day gift, if you'll believe that. And when I was looking at all this and looking at all the media, they're doing a Snapchat for this briefcase. They're showing the briefcase by itself. It's just this nonchalant approach with this ballot briefcase. And it got me to thinking, is this process actually safe? Now, this was before all this Oscar stuff happened. I said it kind of jokingly, but it's like, if I'm a client, I don't want you showing this ballot briefcase, which I know is empty in these social media campaigns, but I don't want you to show this ballot briefcase out by itself in the middle of nowhere. And that just shows you're not taking it seriously. Because think of it, I thought of it this way. If this was AIG, who's PwC's biggest client probably, to the Oscars, the ballot briefcase is your work papers or is your deliverable. That's what you're going to ultimately deliver. What if PwC took AIG's 10K or a fake 10K? It took that around the world saying, let's guess what AIG's results are going to be. Are they going to miss earnings or are they going to make earnings? If I'm the client of PwC, I don't want them trumpeting around this ultimate deliverable of what they owe me and making a joke out of it. Now, I get where PwC got confused, right? Because you see the Oscars is fun and the red carpet and everybody gets publicity, but you're the accountants and everybody just thinks you're nerds. Well, you know why? Because you are. Because that's what your role is supposed to be. That's, the independence in appearance and in fact. The professional in appearance and in fact. PwC wanted to be a professional in fact, but goofy in their appearance. And I think the reason they want to do that is to recruit millennials, but it's also like many of these partners feel like they've missed out on the fun over the years. Well, guess what? You're an accountant. You don't get to have fun at things like this when you're doing client work. And that's what gets so frustrating, because when you go to training at the Big Four tell you to be professional, make your Facebook professional. Don't let clients see this. Don't let clients see that. But then you get to see the partners, and Brian is on the board, and you get to see him goof off with this client deliverable. It gets very confusing. That's another implication we have to keep an eye on. If PwC keeps this Oscars engagement, it'll be interesting to see whether they do the same media campaign again. And if there is a media campaign, I hope these partners are not in it again, because these two were all over the place, just not being professional, but talking up how it's all glitz and glam and trying to make themselves celebrities. And the firm was trying to make themselves celebrities. And that's not their role. And I hope they learn from that. Now, if you want to check out more of our PwC Oscars coverage, make sure to subscribe to this podcast and make sure to check out our website, www.thebig4accountingfirms.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. It's in the sidebar. And we're going to make sure to have more coverage of the Oscars and the implications for PwC. So make sure you stay tuned. I also wanted to let you guys know that if you're looking for a job at the Big Four accounting firms, whether it's PwC or another accounting firm, we have a recruiting guide available. You can get a link on our website in the sidebar, but you could also check it out on Amazon. It's the Big Four accounting firms recruiting guide. All right, that's all we have for today. Thanks for listening.